Welcome. I'm Shane Guiltner. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for 4-H Alberta. And I'm sitting here with Tracy Gardner, who is the new CEO at 4-H Alberta. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about yourself and the idea behind coming up with this podcast. I know 4-H has been kind of on the forefront of initiatives for as long as I've been here, and I know much, much longer, has a history of bringing things across that get picked up across the country. So this is a great kind of cool new initiative that you came and brought to me, and I love the idea. So why don't you, again, kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the idea of the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Shane. I have been a lifelong 4-H fan forever. And I think that when you combine a love of 4-H and the need for increased communication, we can have a podcast. And so that is super fun. And people find themselves looking for information in different ways. So I'm really excited to do this. But a little bit more about me. I was a 4-H member myself. And I was able to go through the 4-H program. I've been a leader, an assistant leader, a sponsor, a stakeholder, all the different roles you can play. And so when the opportunity came to be more officially involved in 4-H, I really jumped at the opportunity and was so excited to work with an amazing staff team. And of course, with families across the province that are just so passionate about 4-H. And so I'm just thrilled to be here and thrilled, I think more than anything, to talk about some hot topics and some things that are relevant out in the 4-H world and how we can enhance some of these programs and projects, and then also kind of tackle some of the hard conversations and talk a little bit about empowering leaders to focus on the good and focus on what is in the best interest of our members in terms of personal youth development and what's in the best interest of 4-H as an organization, the brand that people know as literally the premier youth development program. So I think this is going to be a really great catalyst for that. And I think we're going to have some really cool guests. So that'll also be super fun.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit when we were coming up with the idea, and I think it's just fantastic, the idea of being able to bring different people in from the community, whether they're leaders, a lot of some of the youth, and getting perspectives from them. But you kind of hit on it. So why don't we talk a little bit about kind of, the idea of myth busting, which I think is going to be kind of the first topic for today. Mm-hmm. But what about, what else do you see happening? What kind of topics, what else are people going to be able to expect as we kind of roll these podcasts out?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think that there's an opportunity to tackle things like how do we empower the leader role in each of the clubs? How do we bring some tips and tricks to those leaders to assure them that it's going to be okay? And I think that, there's a little bit of burnout out there. There's a little bit of frustration, as with all volunteer roles. So I think there's some ways that we can give them some really, really helpful tips and tricks about that. I think that there's also a very big misconception about urban and rural. And so we can talk a little bit about projects and how the catalog of projects has been so diverse over the last few years, and that there is projects out there that people don't know. And if we don't have it in the catalog of projects, it just takes an interested leader and some interested kids, and we can create content. So that's one of them. I think one big one that I would really love to share with the group is certainly talking about rules and regulations. So 4-H Alberta has a reference guide that is just such a guiding beacon of how best to navigate through the 4-H world. And with that comes a lot of interpretations and so on. So I think we can walk through some of those challenges that a lot of clubs face, whether you're in the Peace region at the far north or in the South region, and all the points in between. We can talk about some of those pieces that bring up some consistent anxiety or nervousness. And then I think that there's also some inspiring people out there that we can bring to really light a fire in the enthusiasm and anticipation of what 4-H is really all about. So I think there's lots of really cool things that we'll be able to cover. Another one actually that is going to be fun is marketing. And, some of our projects have a sale attached to it. So there's always going to be the interaction with potential buyers and stuff. But what is our greater 4-H fraternity doing with respect to marketing what we do? How do we tell our story? And so I have to tell you just a little short anecdote that yesterday at the Canadian Association of Fairs and Exhibitions, we had 4 outstanding provincial level public speakers, and they were the keynote address for the opening day of the conference. And they blew the socks off the crowd. And really what it was walking the crowd through what 4-H is and what 4-H's legacy is in youth leadership and youth development. So sharing those resources through the podcast platform will be really, really fun. So I'm so excited. There's going to be some really, really fun guests that we'll have on.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love the idea. And I mean, I think it is just, kind of what is 4-H and who's it for? And I know, I'm a farm kid from Saskatchewan. So yes, I understood what 4-H was a bit, but again, it was always in the context of, hey, I lived in the city, but we also had a farm. So I'm on the farm. This made sense for 4-H. But when I was in the city, there was no talk of it, nobody thinking about it. And you kind of thought that, hey, this is only for rural, right? This is only if you're raising beef or doing something like that. So I think just the whole idea of who this is for, being able to reach new audiences and with the new technology and the ideas of podcasts where, maybe we can talk to some people that are looking for, how do I get involved in can I get involved in 4-H if I'm in the middle of Calgary, I'm in the middle of Edmonton or Red Deer? What do I do? And what is this fantastic program? So love that we're going to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is something that's really near and dear to the 4-H Alberta board as well. And so they're very interested in making sure that we increase the 4-H footprint across the province and that it matters not if you're urban or rural. And so I think that that's a really great initiative. Now, having said that, I am also extraordinarily loyal to the Rural Foundation of 4-H. And so we will always continue to push the envelope on making sure our topics and projects are relevant and complement what industry is doing. So I think that part is going to be really cool. But our intro clubs program that is really kicking the door open for urban 4-H potential members to learn in a 6-week introductory piece just how cool 4-H is going to be absolutely excellent. And so we're going to see that program morph itself into other urban centers. And so I think that's going to be awesome. And really realize that you don't have to have a steer or a horse to be in 4-H. There's lots of ways to be involved.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, and every time you start a topic, I'm excited to want to jump into it, and we see how, it would take nothing just to jump in and have a whole conversation on intro clubs and what it can be and how it is unique in that it doesn't cross over into some of those traditional clubs. So I think that's one of the things we could definitely, I look forward to tackling as well on a podcast with you. So
yeah, absolutely. And I was at Boness Park earlier at the end of summer actually. And so I took part in the intro clubs team and how they interacted with all of the folks that were in Boness for a really beautiful summer day. And it was so inspiring to see these, I would say the target age of the kids that found interest there was likely about, that 9 to 12 age range. And they were so curious. And I am so inspired by curiosity because I think they wanted to learn more and they wanted to partake in the activities. And the activities led to a more purposeful reason. So I just think that there's a lot of opportunity with our urban relationships and working with some stakeholders and partners in our urban centers that will be an excellent way to deliver the program, to help create project content. And so, yeah, there's going to be some really cool stuff. Plus our team is awesome. Our urban team is awesome.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I know there's been so many great people and they're really, passion goes such a long way in 4-H. And, you've talked about it with the, kind of keeping that entrenched history and even things like the guide and that's really taking all the knowledge from 100 plus years and people that have been leaders and mentors in these clubs for years have all this good information. And sometimes it's, how do we pass it down, right? How does somebody brand new that wants to start a club in an urban center and is excited to get some new projects underway, where do you go?
Well, and our website is such a wealth of information. Like, there is so much content on the website. You could spend a lot of time going through archive material and scoops and just trying to get a sense of what goes on in 4-H, right from, what happens in each of our 7 regions across the province, who to talk to in each of those regions, what are some of the common activities and events that happen and programs and such. So there's so much content there. But I think if you're interested in 4-H, the first thing that you have to do is just start asking the questions. And if you're in rural, it's really a matter of connecting with some of your neighbors and so on, and get connected with the area coordinators, essentially. And they will find a club nearest you that would best fit what your objectives of participating in 4-H is. Now, on the urban side, I think that the intro clubs is a really, really great start. And I've seen their staff connect those kids that have completed the 6-week intro club and been able to then find a perfect placement for their level of interest. And so I think that it starts with checking out the website and contacting the people in your specific area, and then they will get you to the experts that allow you to follow up essentially with 4-H clubs. I think I just also want to talk a little bit about an important part about wanting to join 4-H.
Sure.
So in the olden days, Shane, I mean the olden days, when I was in 4-H, there was an absolute thought that you had to be a farm kid. And there maybe was only 50 projects at that time. But now, if you have a son or daughter that is highly interested in outdoor living, there is an outdoor education project that is so cool. And it really engages our young people in so many different areas of opportunity, whether it's learning more about our ecosystem and water management and foliage and all the really cool things, or activity, that sort of thing. So when you think of 4-H, you can think much broader than something that has a living, breathing sense. So I think that's really also interesting. When you go into Walmart and you see all the Lego, like there's even Lego for adults.
Yep.
There's a Lego project. And so how cool would that be? And that's really the basis of engineering. And so when you have that kind of a mindset and an interest to build, that is a really cool place to start.
I think that's a great segue into kind of, topic for the first podcast, which is kind of myth busting, and as well, on a broader scale, what is 4-H, right? What is 4-H? Who's it for? So why don't you speak to that, Tracy, and just kind of talk about, the big topic, right? What is 4-H? How do you get involved?
Right. So 4-H, if you asked me to define it, it would be the best darn rural youth program that exists. But everyone feels that their program is pretty awesome, but we know 4-H is awesome. But I'm going to recite the 4-H pledge for you, because I think that what is the benefit to understanding what our pledge is allows you to understand what our objectives are. So I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world. So when you break that down and you realize that you are using everything that you have as an individual to form into the best possible person you can be in order to contribute to the best possible community that you can contribute to. And so that community can be a small rural town. It could be an industry sector. It could be your employment space. But the foundational learning about 4-H is truly about interpersonal development. And so the things that I think are really important to know about 4-H, and so many of our businesses understand this, is that communication is a really important tool. So all of our 4-H members, whether it's through public speaking or presentations, have such strong communication skills. I think they also have a real sense of community. One of their other expectations is community service, and that can come in so many different forms and fashions. And I think that whether it's highway cleanup that we see often along the highways in May, or whether it's providing love and care in seniors facilities and all the many fun things in between, they really have a sense of responsibility to give back. And I think that's really, really important. And I think from a record book perspective, we always give them some opportunity to capture what are the learning points in there. But really what a record book does is it lets people know and reinforces that accountability is important. So if you say you're going to do something, you do it. And the record book is proof that you committed to that act. And so you see that we have important things that happen in the 4-H world, but there are such important learning tools that come with being an active 4-H member. Now, you can just be at a base level 4-H and you can get out of it what you want, and that is absolutely perfect. And then there's those that let's say would be the AAA hockey players of 4-H. And I think that that's super fun too, because there's lots of opportunity for those members to excel, learn, explore, grow, and find what their further passions are. So there's always going to be opportunity for that. So it's a lot like other extracurricular activities.
Yeah, well, and you see that there's things like, as you become senior members and stay into it and entrenched, you said, if you have the passion at AAA, you might become an ambassador or it's different trips and awards. There's a lot of those types of things through 4-H as well. And for someone that wasn't involved with 4-H growing up, even just hearing and understanding things like scholarships that are available. And again, right, you keep hearing from the business community things about how these kids coming out of 4-H, communication skills, how they work together, how they understand how teams work and working within a team and different roles and stuff, because there's so much involved at a club level where these members are taking on a lot of those responsibilities as young people. And then it just kind of grows with them as they expand and move into business. They just become, very valuable employees, as we often hear, and not just employees, become the leaders of a lot of these companies and industries because of their 4-H experience. Mm-hmm.
Well, that is absolutely true. And there is a competitive advantage for 4-H kids because of all the things we've talked about. I think too, there's a real interest in making sure that we bust the myth that 4-H may not be cool, or there's other sports that bring greater notoriety or acknowledgement. And what I can tell you is, there's kids that really excel in 4-H and can accumulate tens of thousands of dollars worth of scholarships. And if that's their goal and they're able to achieve that, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing too is travel opportunities. I have been extraordinarily fortunate to travel to Australia, Scotland, Mexico, all over the United States, going to different events and programs and farms and industry things, post-secondary institutions, all of that as a result of kids being interested to explore what is outside of their own community. And that is also pretty cool.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you mentioned about, the cool sport or different things. I know it was interesting to me, even once I came in 4-H, and I have two boys of my own that are busy in hockey and in Calgary, but was that someone said, well, hockey could be a project. Like, you could actually make hockey and what you're doing, there's different things you could do to make it part of a project so that you could still get all of the benefits of being in a 4-H club, learning those extra pieces of communication skills, be open to opportunities for scholarships as well, which is fantastic, especially, if you have AAA hockey kids that are aspiring play NCAA in the States or play U Sports here in Alberta or across Canada at a university. So yeah, having that opportunity and something in your back pocket it was pretty cool to learn about.
Shane, we had lunch with the Minister of Agriculture on Monday this weekend. And I think what we were talking about specific to rural and to agriculture is the beef project has been typically either a fed steer, a breeding heifer, or carcass. And those have kind of been the three top projects you can choose from. And what's interesting is when we think a little bit more entrepreneurial and we think about what is important in the consumer decision-making process, we learn that we can have projects that are about genetics. We can have projects that are about food quality and talk about where our food comes from, or culinary arts. We can talk a little bit more about net feed efficiency and environmental stewardship. And we can bring forth some really cool ideas that a lot of our sector is looking at from a technology and innovation standpoint. So again, you don't necessarily have to have an animal to be in a project of your interest. And so I think that our team is doing such a great job in making those partnerships and then finding an opportunity to learn what the 4-H members want and how we can deliver.
Well, that's an important point too. And you brought up being able to be in the industry. You might be really interested in the beef industry, but we do know the input costs and things associated with raising a steer. So that way there is opportunities to be in the beef club and be part of a project that doesn't necessarily require that same level of financial input.
For sure. That is such a really, really good point. I think the other one that we want to talk about too is competition. And Shane, competition is good. It's a really good thing. So you talk about sports or academia. Our kids are competitive, and that's a good thing. And so I talk to a lot of leaders that may be frustrated at some of the families that are high achieving or super competitive. And I often ask them, as long as they are playing within the rules and regulations, why is that bad? It is a very competitive world that we live in. And for kids to have that kind of determination and drive, I think is absolutely inspiring. So when kids are wanting to make the AA team, or they want to achieve the highest level of accreditation as a lifeguard, or whatever their passion is, we always want to provide a platform for them to succeed. And competition is okay. It's a really good thing. And I think what that does is it lights a fire in our 4-H's program to know that we can continue to elevate and provide recognition for those that achieve. So competition is a good thing. And I know that might sound controversial, but it is really good.
Yeah. You know what? And I think we're walking back to that a little bit too. I mean, I'm not spring chicken myself. I've been around. I've kind of seen it all where, you're allowed to be ultra competitive and only, the top got the prizes. And then I've been through, growing as a kid where everybody gets a participation medal or ribbon as well. And then, same thing. I feel like we're trending back a little bit to just what you're touching on, which is competition is okay. Like, it's okay. Everybody doesn't always have to win because life isn't that way, right? Mm-hmm. And if there's anything we're trying to do in 4-H is other than just provide a great experience and fun place to be and just a great opportunity for that, it's also, we're building future leaders. We're building future, members of our community that are going to go out there and understand that, life is competitive, right? Mm-hmm. Projects and careers and everything, you kind of have to look at that next level and how you're going to get there.
Yeah, we've got many people that are listening probably pay attention to Mel Robbins and Mel Robbins' theory of let them, right? And so if you have an uber competitive family and that is their objective and they work hard to achieve their objective, let them. And if you have another family that maybe doesn't have those expectations, their goals are maybe very different, let them. Because it's a wonderful thing to look at what people's objectives are in their extracurricular activities and let them.
Yeah, that's it's a great point. And I mean, think about it from a leader's perspective. I've coached hockey and that stuff, and you can kind of get trapped in sometimes as leaders to want everybody rowing in the same, we're all need to be this competitive. This is what it means to be on this, but realistically, if somebody, on the soccer team, the kid wants to go out and throw dandelions in the field, right? Let them. Right? If that's their idea of what soccer is for them, and the other kid, is ultra focused and scoring 6 goals, let them.
It's an important lesson.
Fantastic. So any other myths, anything you want to break down today as continuing on our podcast today?
Yes, there is. This is an important one, Shane, super important. So I have shared with a lot of the different 4-H regions that I've attended their meetings so far. And I have come up with the 4-H's. So I recited the 4-H pledge earlier. And so I have the 4-H's for adults. And I think that conflict is all around us, right? It's in media, it's in our jobs, it's in life. It's just how we deal with that conflict that is super, super important because it's out there. And so I often talk to leaders about how they can manage conflict within their clubs, their districts, their regions, their programs that they're putting on, whatever that may be. And I've come up with this. Is in that conflict, is what you are reporting honest? Are you portraying the facts? And do you have them right? Number 2 is this complaint about conflict helpful? So we often talk, my brother says this often, is it helpful or hurtful? Right? So we want things to be helpful. Yeah. Is what you're doing honorable? So is it for the greater good? And the last one, and the most important one that really hits in the feelers, is if you get your way, who are you a hero to? And I think that that's super duper important because we can be frustrated at people's behaviors or their actions. But in the end, let them, and also remind yourself, who are you going to be a hero to if you create a stink because of this? And will it be for the greater good? So I think that that's something that you will hear me often say, and leaders will hear me often say, is to really think about the primary reason why the conflict exists and how much we want to manage it to make sure that our kids, our members, are in a safe place to achieve, grow, be inspired, learn, network, be friends, all the things they love.
Yeah, I love that. I know we've talked about it when I've been in 4-H is, kind of the idea of that members first, right? Like you have a conflict with another leader, with a parent, families in conflict. Let's get back to who this affects, right? Like it's the kids. That hero component is big because yes, sometimes it's about the member, but it actually goes a lot further than that. In what I'm hearing you say, because it really, who are you being a hero to? So
a lot of our conflicts are reported in Case IQ system. And do you know, Shane, that there has only been one that has been a member submitted a conflict? I think that tells a big story. And so again, members first. And are we able to diffuse this potential conflict there in the moment? And how is it going to impact our members and make them feel safe and comfortable and in a place where achievement is possible? And so that I think is always the thing that needs to remain front of mind. I think we're going to talk a lot about conflict. And I think that there's some really great takeaways from it. And I think there's some things that we can all learn from that, but expect more conflict resolution skills to come.
Sounds good. Sounds like another topic. Stay tuned. So on that note, thanks, Tracy. Thanks for coming in and sitting down for this initial podcast. I'm excited to see where it goes. I know we've got a really interesting guest coming for the next podcast. Not sure if you want to let that out a little bit or we just want to keep that under wraps for the next podcast.
So there's 2 things, Shane. I want to dedicate this first podcast to an amazing mentor of mine who is an amazing ranch lady, an entrepreneur, and just a leader in her community. So Della, this one's for you. And also our next guest is, I'll maybe give you some hints, a recording country music star, a 4-H leader, and a 4-H dad. So we'll see if you can get it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thanks for joining us. And we look forward to many more of these. I really think that this can be just a great outlet to get out into the community. And like you said, it's just another way of reaching and communicating, right? Yeah. Everyone likes to get their information in different ways. And we're hopeful you'll join us for the next one.
Awesome. Keep on 4-Hing.